Welcome, everyone, to the last Aspen City Council regular meeting of 2025. We are all excited to be here and to have this last meeting. And I'd like to wish everyone a very happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, and Merry Christmas, and season's greetings. Would you call the roll, please, Nicole?
Councillor Benedetti.
Here.
Councillor Doyle.
Here.
Councillor Guth. Councillor Rose.
Here.
Mayor Richards.
Here. Thank you very much. We have no scheduled public appearances today. It is time to open the citizens' comment section of the agenda. Is there anyone from the public here to speak tonight? In the room, no? Oh, you are yes? Okay.
Fresh off the Board of County Commissioners meeting.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is
evening.
Breeze Richardson. I'm the Executive Director of Aspen Public Radio. And in advance of the consent agenda, I'll just take the opportunity to take the mic and thank the city for your continued support of our radio station. We'll be celebrating 45 years next year, and as so many of you know, this radio station has been a part of this community's in such significant ways. If the council decides to proceed with staff recommendations, we will successfully succeed our goal of raising $500,000 to replace lost federal funds. So thank you again, and I'm appreciative of being here and just wanted to show my gratitude.
Thank you very much. We all appreciate your services.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone online for public comment?
And thanks for representing us in Washington.
Yes, yeah, we should say thank you on that. We do not have any more public comment. I will close the public comment section of the agenda. We have we have special orders of the day in terms of council members and mayor's comments. Who would like to start with that? Council member comments is not board reports.
I can start, I guess. I'll start with some bad news and finish with some good. This is from The Guardian. Glaciers to reach peak rate of extinction in the Alps in 8 years. Glaciers in the European Alps are likely to reach their peak rate of extinction in only 8 years, according to a study with more than 100 due to melt away permanently by 2033. Glaciers in the western U.S. and Canada are forecast to reach their peak year of loss less than a decade later, with more than 800 disappearing each year by then. Melting of glaciers driven by human-caused global heating is one of the clearest signs of the climate crisis. Now on to some good news. This is from the BBC, 7 reasons to be hopeful in this time of climate change. Surging renewables, wind, solar, and other renewable power sources overtook coal as the world's leading source of electricity this year. The global growth in renewables is driven by China, which is massively expanding its clean energy output and dominating exports of clean energy technologies. In addition to huge growth in solar, China is even harnessing the power of extreme storms with typhoon-resistant wind farms. Ocean protections. The high seas, waters beyond national jurisdictions, make up nearly 2/3 of the world's oceans. Global agreement to protect the high seas was at last agreed to in 2023, and in September 2025, it was ratified by enough countries to bring it into force. Forest turnarounds. Brazil this year hosted COP30, the first UN Global Climate Conference to take place in the Amazon, and it made forests a key platform. The November negotiations in Belém, Brazil were nicknamed the Forest COP. There was a landmark legal case, and the International Court of Justice, considered the world's highest court, issued a landmark decision this year clearing the way for countries to sue each other over climate change. This move could help nations heavily impacted by climate change to take legal action against polluting nations. Wins for wildlife included several endangered species experienced remarkable comebacks this year, including sea turtles and crocodiles. Indigenous developments. Indigenous peoples were formally recognized at a United Nations level as leaders in the planet's protection and stewardship. The Klamath River restoration, just 1 year after the historic removal of 4 dams along California's Klamath River, salmon have returned to their traditional spawning grounds. And those are the 7 pieces of good news for the climate this year. I want to actually thank events and planning and any other parks I'm sure was involved in the Winter School celebrations. I was really great community event, and I know people were working early in the morning and late at night to pull that off. So thanks to staff, and happy holidays to everyone.
Very good. Christine?
I'll pile on to the Winter School congratulations. I think the feedback has been really great on moving the date and the new format. So thanks to the city and the chamber and all the arts and cultural organizations, SKICO, everyone who makes it happen. And happy holidays to everybody.
Very good. Sam?
Just happy holidays to everyone, and have a restful and joyful holiday season, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, very good, very good. I do have an announcement that there's going to be a Cocoa with the Cops. The Aspen Police Department's annual Cocoa with Cops event is happening this month. Enjoy some hot cocoa with your community response and police officers on December 24th, Christmas Eve, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. on the corner of Galena Street and Cooper Avenue, directly across from Paradise Bakery, and your favorite men and women in blue who protect us daily will be serving free Paradise Bakery snacks and hot chocolate. So please attend, go say thanks, go say hi, bring your youngsters around to meet the people who they need to contact if they're ever in trouble. So thank you very much for that. My comments echo everyone else's. It was a wonderful Winter School celebration. I got to try 14 or 15 different soups as a soup school judge, and I think our restaurants are doing really well overall in terms of soup quality. So thank you for this first 9 months I've had on council, serving with you and with staff, and thank everyone for all their hard work throughout the year. It's been a tremendous start, and I'm looking forward to the holidays to come back refreshed in the new year. So that's it for my items. Do we have any agenda amendments today?
No.
No, we don't. Do we have any city managers' comments today?
I'm going to pile on and just wish everybody a great holiday, and also to say that they should do their snow dance. I have a parks cleaning team for downtown and a streets department that are looking for business, so
Yeah.
we need some snow.
Everyone go wash your cars.
That's right.
As soon as they're all clean, it'll snow again. So, yeah, we need to do something here. Now we would move on to board reports. Do you have any for APCHA?
I do.
Okay.
John and I were at the APCHA meeting last Wednesday, 12:10. We had, well, first, I'm sure people saw in the newspaper and it was reported, there was some emotional public comment on housing issue in Woody Creek with a neighborhood sex offender. And so that was a significant part of the meeting. No, there were no decisions, but I just bring it up because it was in the papers, yeah. We had a presentation from a consulting group on the history of APCHA, largely informative. I'm sure you could have given it to us as well. And then we got an update from the communications team that APCHA will be debuting a new website in early 2026. And the focus is on usability and accessibility and just making things simpler for everybody to access APCHA information and purchase and rent homes. So look forward to that, yeah.
Look forward to that, very good. John?
Yeah, I'll start with the Rudai Water and Power Authority meeting. We interviewed 3 people for a new executive director because April Long has shifted from water issues to housing issues, and she's doing a great job with that. We actually did, I better not go with that just yet. We interviewed 3 people for the ED position, and we also had a little presentation on aquatic nuisance species and what RWAPA's role is in that. And here's the big question about the aquatic nuisance species. We're talking about the zebra mussels and New Zealand snails, of all things. When they take, right now, Rudai is run by the Board of Reclamation, and its job is to deliver water. And because zebra mussels can be brought into this body of water by recreationalists, recreation is just a benefit that they give the general public. Mm-hmm. And if something happens that constitutes Rudi getting infected with the zebra mussels, drastic measures will be taken, which include the possibility of losing recreational opportunities on Rudi because of the possibility that it could ruin the infrastructure of not only being able to deliver water, but also hydropower. So it's a really, really serious issue that I don't think many people understand the impacts of what this means.
If I could add in on that for 1 second.
Please.
The invasive species mussels are not edible, so, no one harvests them to eat, and they really don't have any natural predators, and so that's a big part of the problem. And if you've ever seen the barnacles build up on the bottom of an old boat, this is what happens. They kind of become concreted inside the infrastructure, and then you have to pay divers to go into the very cold water in dangerous circumstances to kind of hammer them out. And it's a repeat and repeat and repeat process. So it's something that really fouls a lot of the infrastructure. Over the years, we have tried to get the Bureau of Reclamation to get the people they're releasing the water to pay towards the inspection program because they're the ones who want good, clean water deliveries. But that hasn't happened. But I think that whoever becomes the new director of Rudi Water and Power Authority will need to probably sit down with our attorney and potentially our water attorney to go over the original documents that approved Rudi Reservoir, because recreational water was one of the key elements that was promised the public. And I don't know that they can just automatically drop it so easily, but we'd have to really go through these older documents. They're back from the Kennedy era.
Right.
So.
No, it's a huge concern, and these aquatic nuisances are slowly creeping up our way.
Yeah, they are. They find the larvae first before they'll find the snails,
Right.
or the mussels.
They've been confined down to the Grand Junction area, but now they've been detected as far up the Colorado River as Eagle,
Yeah.
which means that they've
be
already
anywhere.
passed where the Roaring Fork intersects the Colorado, which means they're headed our way.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Okay, other than RWAPA, you and I had a CML policy meeting. I guess I'll let you you should take that. Or no, that's right, I had
We're
the
gonna
notes,
do
I'm
that.
sorry. There were quite a few possible bills and amendments that were proposed. One was on Cora requests. That was sent back for amendments. Proposed revisions to revegetation and water rights, no longer allowed in irrigated land. There was a lot split by right, which was sent back for amendment because that takes away all local control. Street racing and stunt driving, that's a huge problem down on the Front Range apparently, and they're proposing a bill that would have you lose your driver's license for a minimum of 2 years or possibly the loss of your vehicle. And then there was also discussion about releasing body cam footage from mass casualty events, which is super contentious right now. So basically, I don't think anything was really passed. It was all sent back for amendments.
Yeah, there was nothing that we chose to oppose as a policy committee. There's some existing ones supporting. This was kind of what they're hearing coming down the pike from legislators. A lot of times it's discussions of bills that haven't really been formally introduced yet, so it's very hard to know exactly what will be in them at the end of the day. But we have started on a couple of items with the CML policy. Two different things. The organization has an overall policy framework, and they've sent it to us for redlining, and John and I looked it over with Tara from the city attorney's office and sent in potential red lines. Their own staff had tried to clean it up first, really simplifying and modernize it. We sent in others. I'm sure any number of the 1,000 municipalities in Colorado sent in other, and those potential amendments will be voted on the June meeting. Just to put it out there for the rest of my board and for the public, one of the items I've added for the consideration of that group is to not expand gaming outside of the 3 cities where it is already, Central City, Cripple Creek and Black Hawk. And I've been contacted by someone, a woman I know named Chrissy Farsi, who works as a lobbyist on a number of issues, but has also worked with those gambling communities to limit gambling expansion in Colorado. And she contacted me recently after I'd even done this to say, hey, did you know there's a huge slew of potential bills coming down the pike to expand gambling to other communities in Colorado? And this is something that I've always personally opposed, to tell you the truth. I have nothing against gambling, but I know that once one resort in Colorado had it, all resorts in Colorado would have to have it. And it was originally allowed in Colorado from a ballot initiative that allowed Cripple Creek, Central City, and Black Hawk to have gambling because they were very rural towns that really didn't have a tourism driver, and they were failing, and they had nothing to do. And so it was going to be contained there and a $5 limit and everything like this. Well, it didn't take more than 4 years, and if anyone was interested in historic preservation, so they should have seen the lack of oversight in those communities, because they were small town communities who had no idea the type of money and magnitude that was going to hit them and be building things and so on. But anyhow, it took maybe 3-5 years before there was a new ballot measure on the state ballot to expand gambling to 10 different communities, rifle, parachute, all over the state. And that was defeated. There's been proposals to have gambling in our airports. That has been defeated. Looking at the statistics of what it does to surrounding communities in terms of poverty and drug use and abuse, it's not a pretty picture. Everybody likes to maybe go and gamble and go back home where it's not, but it's not something that I would like to see expanded into Aspen Snowmass or any of our competing resorts, because I think it just is a domino effect. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that. We're going to maybe seeing some expanded gambling measures this year. And I have been asked if I would be interested in being on a committee opposing that as mayor. So it's not a council vote. We may, as a group, vote in the future to oppose any of these measures, but I myself will be lending my name to that effort. Because I just do not think it's something that Colorado resorts need. And I think if you went down to either Cripple Creek or Central City, you saw all these little small business owners who thought this was going to save their community and their business, and they're just gutted. They're gone. There was no other retail or opportunities other than gambling left in those towns. They've tried to restore an ice cream shop or two, but that's about it. At any rate, I just wanted to use my mayor's comments to update you on that activity of mine. I've also heard, and this is something more for our Parks Department people to keep a lookout on, that the people at the Colorado Lottery are considering trying to add scratch-off tickets online that you buy with credit cards. And I also would not support ideas of gambling of Colorado Lottery going online either. I think it really hurts the retailers who sell it locally and there's a reason they advertise for Gamblers Anonymous that if you have a problem with gambling, we don't need to make it too prominent in our state. Go ahead, John, with the rest of the CML. Thank you.
That was it for CML. I did have a Sister Cities meeting. Alston Weiss's wife, Rebecca, gave a really great report on a Bariloche birding exchange that ACES and Sister Cities put together. She will be presenting at ACES for Potbelly Perspectives in January. I would like to share a couple things, though. South America is known as the bird continent because there are 3,400 different species, which is more than a third of the world's total species. They got to see an Andean condor, which has a 10.5-foot wingspan and weighs 30 pounds. It's a pretty big bird. And they ended up seeing 180 different species and did even some owling at night while they were there. Oh. On the business side of things, Sister Cities approved the new bylaws. The grant application is still ongoing. And let's see, next September 21st through 25th is going to be the Garmisch-Partenkirchen 60th anniversary of our being sister cities with them. That'll be here in Aspen. The Pepke Auditorium is reserved for the 24th for that celebration. We've got 12 kids from Garmisch coming here in March, 6 kids from Aspen going there. Queenstown High School exchange process has started for this winter season. Shimukapu as well is planned for January, and Chamonix is being planned for March.
That's great. The kids really benefit from those programs.
They do. My child was one of them.
Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you. Did you have a board report this week? I'll try to be brief. I did want to thank the Aspen Chamber Resort Association for their mix that they held at the Jazz Aspen new facility over the Red Onion, and I would like to congratulate Jazz Aspen on that facility, and I think it's going to be a really wonderful venue for a lot of exciting performances and local events over time. We also had the RAFTA board meeting on the 11th. It was really finishing out the budget for the coming year. The challenges do remain budgetarily. We are fully funded with a hogback service that added a midday route through the end of summer, maybe early fall, but the funding is not there for the balance of that route or expanding service other than that because Garfield County is not contributing. But the director, Kurt, had a very good meeting with the mayors of those communities that are looking for service, Silt and Rifle, and having some discussions with them about how they might be able to contract from RAFTA for services, should they contribute more and find a new funding source. They are putting small amounts of money from their governments, but their governments have like $15 million a year budgets. It's not like Aspen. And so finishing out that gap is something that's going to be really challenging and interesting to figure out how we can go forward. We are still waiting for the final results of the fare-free experiment. I have asked them to try to look as to the extent they can into what the various finance departments within the jurisdictions are reporting for the month of November, because it seemed that even with fare-free, ridership was down. And so, again, I'm waiting for final reports, but it doesn't seem that a free bus ride is quite the panacea to congestion that many had hoped it might be. So those were all the meetings I have had this week, so since last meeting. Thank you very much for your patience with that. We have finished board reports. We will now move on to the consent calendar. We have resolution number 163, series of 2025, adoption of the Ute Properties Management Plan. This is over off of Ute Avenue and the cemetery area there. Resolution number 165, series of 2025, Aspen Public Radio off-cycle grant request. We have resolution number 167, series of 2025, the addendum to the City of Aspen and the ACRA Tourism Promotion Fund agreement. This is an older agreement dated January 1, 2023, and we are continuing to work with the Chamber of Commerce to help them find a permanent home so the Armory can become the home we all need for our community. And the final two items are resolution number 170 and 171 together, series of 2025, contract with Azavar Audit Solutions and Deckard Technologies. This is to replace the software that we have had doing our STR tracking, and this is a more sophisticated software that will work better since our older vendor has been sold and is not following through the way we would anticipate. And the final item is our draft minutes from the December 2nd meeting. Is there any item that people would like to pull off a consent? No. Is there a motion to approve consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. We have no notice of call-up. We have no first readings of ordinance. We are going to go into our public hearings. This is ordinance number 17, series of 2025, establishment of 6 transferable development rights certificates for 500 West Francis Street, Lot 1. Happy holidays. Thank you all.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, Mayor. We're going to let our applicant's representative go first tonight.
Thank you.
What am I doing?
Join the Zoom,
I'm in the Zoom.
and then you can plug his thing in first, and then you can share
We
your
just need to plug.
I guess I need to share his presentation.
That would be wonderful if you could.
Try. Is this it?
It's the only thing on there, yeah.
All right.
Aha,
All right, let me share this.
on his screen, that's a good start. Is this on? Yeah,
If the green light is on?
yes.
Okay, very good.
I gotta make this bigger here. Yep, I clicked on it.
click share at the bottom. Zoom is different.
And how do I advance?
We'll get it, once it's up here, I'll, should be able to just hit this button here. Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to go if you are.
I think we are.
Okay, thank you. I'm Alan Richmond, and I'm here tonight representing Jerry Murdoch, the owner of Lot 1. There we go. This is the lot in question that we're talking about, Lot 1 of the 500 West Francis Historic Landmark Lot Split. You can see it is completely vacant, and it has significant vegetation on the perimeter of the property on both the east and the west side, as well as a few kind of spindly aspen trees in the middle. But it's a beautiful open lot today. Mr. Murdoch purchased this property about 20 years ago. At that time, the property consisted of 3 town site lots, 9,000 square feet. The property had been designated as a historic landmark by the city in 1982. The 9,000 square foot lot had a maximum allowable floor area of 4,080 square feet if it had been developed as a single lot. In 2007, Mr. Murdoch and a partner submitted an application to subdivide the property into a 6,000 square foot lot and a 3,000 square foot lot. That application was recommended for approval by HPC, and it was approved by the Aspen City Council. A fundamental element of the lot split approval was that the applicant proposed and the city agreed that Lot 2, the developed lot, should have a floor area of 2,987 square feet assigned to it. That magical number was the existing floor area of the residence and the carriage house. And that meant that Lot 2 would be fully built out. It would have no remaining floor area. All of the subdivision's remaining floor area was assigned to Lot 1. That was 1,093 square feet, the difference between 4,080 and 2,987, plus a 500 square foot bonus that HPC granted to the project, allowing for a total of 1,593 square feet to be developed there. In the 2007 Planning Office memo to the council, the planning staff summarized the HPC's rationale for the FAR bonus as follows. HPC found that granting an FAR bonus is an appropriate preservation method primarily because it removes any future development potential from the historic resources. The HPC also took into account that over the past year, the owners of 500 West Francis have undertaken extensive rehabilitation of the historic resources, and that was a quote from the staff memo. Mr. Murdoch undertook the lot split application because he felt that this historic structure, which we're looking at here, is one of Aspen's iconic Victorian structures and should be preserved as it is by removing the development pressure from the structure. He thought the lot split process would be the best tool to accomplish that objective. And so he decided to remove all of the remaining floor area from the Victorian and assign it to the vacant lot. HPC so appreciated that decision that it granted an FAR bonus to the property, particularly in light of the historic renovations that had also been accomplished. Okay, so moving to the application which is before you tonight. We see it as reinforcing and extending the historic preservation decision that was made in 2007, where that action was intended to remove the allowable floor area from the historic resources. This proposal would take that decision one step further by removing the remaining floor area from these two lots in its entirety. Issuing the 6 TDRs would provide the incentive that basically tips the scales in favor of preserving this property or keeping it undeveloped. It would also preserve valuable open space side yard buffer on the west side of the historic structure, which we think is particularly important so that a new house is not built immediately next door that would detract from the character of the historic structure. Staff, as part of our application, asked us to review the HPC guidelines to see if those have relevance to this type of proposal. While most of the HPC guidelines address restoration, additions, and new construction, there were some guidelines that we could find that are relevant here. So guideline 1.1 says all projects shall respect the historic development pattern or context of the block, neighborhood, or district. And it speaks about setback to setback development being uncharacteristic of the historic context. There's also a statement that side yard setbacks create distinctive patterns in the neighborhood and contribute to the overall open space and rhythm of a neighborhood. Now, I'm going to take you back a few years to when I was a staff member of the planning office during the 1980s, and a project that I worked on at the time was a set of code amendments that were intended to address a concern that was raised by the then City Council that new residences were being built in the West End that didn't respect the historic character of the West End neighborhood. Instead of the vertical style of many of the historic residences, such as the residence that we're talking about here, these houses were being designed in more of a ranch house style. I think you saw a lot of them, as I recall, along North Street. And they were spreading out basically from setback to setback on properties in the West End. I therefore studied the existing development pattern, and I found that the historic character of many of the larger historic properties in the West End was to have a generous open side yard on one side of the property. And so what council adopted at that time was a new side yard setback standard that applied to the R6 zone district only, and which is still in effect today, which required basically that one of the two side yards be significantly larger than the other yard. So rather than having two 5-yard setbacks, you might have a 10 or a 15-foot setback on one side and a 5-foot on the other side. This was an effort on the city's part to preserve the generous open side yards that existed in the West End and to prevent property line to property line development from occurring. Lot 1 has for many years functioned as that generous side yard to this iconic historic Victorian. So we believe that keeping it as an open lot would be consistent with that historic development pattern in the West End. Moreover, as the staff has pointed out in their memo, the Sanborn maps do show that the historic pattern of development in this particular block included at least 1 or 2 open lots. So this proposal would also be consistent with that historic pattern for this block. We're almost done. Guideline 1.1 is another relevant one. It recommends that historically significant landscaping on site be preserved and maintained. As we saw from the initial photo that I showed, the most significant landscaping on Lot 1 is located around the perimeter of the lot along its east and west property lines. It's probably likely that you could avoid actually taking out those trees when building a new house. Those trees would probably fall in the setbacks, but we've seen all too often when development goes subgrade, which always seems to happen in the West End, the root systems of older trees can get cut when the site is excavated. And this proposal would ensure that that threat would not happen. So for all these reasons, we would disagree with the staff comment that approving this request would not further the preservation of this iconic historic resource. We believe that keeping this as a vacant lot is the best way to respect the historic development pattern and context of this block, and would ensure that a new structure immediately next door does not detract from this historic structure or cause damage to the trees that surround this lot. Finally, we would ask you to consider how often does an opportunity like this present itself to the city to preserve a beautiful vacant lot in the West End at no cost to the city? Surely that would be a great benefit, not just to this historic resource, but also to the community at large. Therefore, we respectfully request the council adopt Ordinance 17. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. I had asked a couple of questions at the last meeting. I don't know if anyone has prepared answers, but this would seem to be the time. So I had wanted to know how many unlanded TDRs are out there in the city and for how much square footage?
I have some of that information. It's in my presentation. Do you want me to go right to that
Is
slide?
it
or do you want me
time to
through
go? Yeah, well, why don't we do that then? I'm sorry, when you sat back and left the table, I wasn't quite sure what you were doing, just letting Alan have
it?
the
Yes,
whole
we were giving
floor.
Alan the floor.
And we're complete.
Okay, and you're complete. So let's just go through your presentation and we'll see what those items are.
Should I pop that out?
Yeah, you can probably pull it out. I can't break it, can I?
I don't want to conflict.
Maybe I need to stop sharing and then I'll pull up mine. See if it's going to go into the right mode here. Oops, there it is. All right, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Dan Falk. I'm the planning director for the city, and with me is Jillian White, who's our principal planner and historic preservation officer. So she prepared the memo that's in your packet tonight, and since I did the first reading, I'm going to do the second reading tonight, which is also our public hearing. And I do have information on the request for information that you had, so I'll get to that in just a few slides.
Yeah, sure, thank you.
So I think you're familiar with the location at this point. Again, this is aerial highlighting the subject lot. It's at the corner of Francis and West Francis and North 4th Street. Again, here's a Sanborn map. You've seen these. And so there was a structure on this vacant lot. It was removed. I don't know if we really know the year that it was removed. That hasn't really been researched. And again, that does kind of show the development pattern. You see some vacant lots on the Sanborn map. Here's a historic photo of the resource. It's a really great depiction, and Alan had shared a more current photo. The red arrow is showing where the house was on this subject lot years ago. And then here's another view from the street, and we're just sharing here what the purpose of the transferable development right program. It's to encourage the preservation of historic landmarks and to accomplish a community goal of preserving Aspen's heritage as reflected in this built environment. And so as you know, back in 2007, this was seen as a great benefit when the lot split was approved, as well as the floor area bonus. And so here we are, in terms of request for information, we are going to be preparing a more complete information-only memo and perhaps map out some of the locations where TDRs have been approved and then where they've landed. So we need a little bit of time to do that. But just initially, overall, 120 TDR certificates have been approved on 38 properties since 2004. There's a little discrepancy in our records. Some say 2004, some say 2006, but I think it's 2004. Of those 120, 71 have landing sites, so almost 60% have landed on other locations within the city. You asked about recent valuations. Again, I think it is required actually that they report the value of the sale, although it doesn't always happen. The most recent record we have was in February of this year. There was a certificate transfer that was reported for $700,000. And then I believe you also asked about some other examples that included some of the components of tonight's request, so where there was a lot split, potentially a floor area bonus, and then a TDR certificate. And so we did find one at 430 West Main in 2013. It was very explicitly approved for the lot split with 10 TDR certificates and a 500 square foot floor area bonus. So 2 of those TDRs were from a floor area bonus. And when you read the staff memo, it very explicitly says, it kind of recognizes that these are not going to be used for development. They're actually going to be used in this program, which was interesting. And then another location, it's right across the street, actually at 510 West Main. In 2018, there was a lot split with 7 TDR certificates. There was no floor area bonus associated with that one, but these both have vacant lots next to the.
And the TDRs have been sold off from those, or?
It's a mix. Some have. I'm not sure if all 10 of the ones at 430 have been extinguished. That's something I can follow up with. I believe some have. They weren't all done at the same time, so you have to kind of track them through this spreadsheet that we have. Some have landed. I don't believe all 17 have landed of these 2 examples.
And are all the city TDRs the 250 square feet?
They
And
are.
so that's the $700,000 value in February of last year?
Yep, that's for 250 square feet. Each TDR is a 250 square foot increment, and so each certificate is worth that.
And I believe that's been consistent since the
Yeah.
beginning of the program. And so again, we're going to follow up with a little more complete memo on this, as well as probably a map.
Yeah, we'd
Give us a little
appreciate
bit of
that.
time, but hopefully this will help you.
And essentially, TDRs can land anywhere within the city, or where can they
Now,
land?
there's specifics on what types of sites are eligible. It varies depending on like the lot size. So for a 3,000 square foot lot, it can't be a historic property. You could potentially land 1 TDR there in like the R6 zone district. If it's a 6,000 square foot lot, you could potentially land 2 TDRs there. So it just depends on the lot size, the zone district it's in, and then it can't be a historic and it needs to be a residential use.
Okay. Do you think we might get to a point where we have more TDRs than landing spots within city limits?
I don't know. I think that's part of what maybe our mapping will help us look into, is kind of how much inventory, I guess, we would have for eligible sites. I don't know, Ben, if you've.
I think the only thing to add to that is I do think that the sales price probably reflects some of the supply and demand that's in the market. I will say of the ones that haven't been landed, I think a lot of them are sitting, waiting for future projects, waiting, for when the owners want to sort of act upon them. But I will say that 700,000, kind of has been an upward trajectory of that number over the last few years. And I think it's reflective of supply and demand forces in the marketplace. So, we've had some other large issuances as of late. 120 East Main at the former Pitkin County Library. There was an issuance of 10 there. A couple of those have sold for in the neighborhood of 700,000, and so I think there's a strong demand for them when they're made available in the market.
Yeah, it's a challenge, I think, for all of us, because it does mean larger houses beyond what would be considered appropriate zoning for the lot size. And those tend to impact other people in other neighborhoods. And it kind of makes people in the East End feel, what are we, chopped liver, just keep dumping all the extra growth over here with these oversized houses on really, really small, odd-shaped lots with not good streets.
Yeah, I will say that a significant number of these have been landed in the West End on non-historic properties. And so while, I do think, the mapping exercise, anecdotally, I can say that they're fairly evenly distributed across town, but our mapping exercise will
We'll show that.
hopefully give a little bit more of a visual to that. But anecdotally, I think they're fairly distributed, and certainly in the same neighborhood where these are proposed to be pulled off of the property, there are other TDRs that are being landed within the West End on non-historic properties as well.
Thank you for that.
I will say, looking at valuations, 2021 is when you did see a big jump. I think the first one over 400,000 was in 2021. The first one over 500,000 was like 23. So I think we'll map the valuations as well, and you'll probably see a bit of a spike after COVID.
I think the county has seen the same with their TDRs. There was a lull for a period of time, but then everyone wants a bigger home.
Well, I think the first one that sold, we said was like 150,000 that it sold for. So yeah, it's increased significantly.
Yeah, okay. Please, I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation.
Not at all.
But interestingly, the county has come down significantly from the COVID peak, significantly.
Yeah. So, it comes in waves.
It's a very market-driven instrument.
So I'm going to go through the criteria that are required to approve a TDR. I've added the underlining to kind of emphasize what I feel is kind of the relevant language of each of these. And so this is right out of our code. The first one is that the property has been designated a historic landmark and that it's a single family as a permitted use. That's true of this property. B, demonstrating that the sending site has the permitted unbuilt development rights. We've talked a lot about that. There are 1,593 square feet of unbuilt development right. I think that was established in 2007. C, it's demonstrated that the establishment of the TDR certificate will not create a nonconformity. It will not create a nonconformity. We believe it meets that. D, that the analysis of the unbuilt development right shall only include allowable development prescribed by zoning for a single family. And this is where we have the language about it shall not include the potential of the sending site to gain floor area bonuses. Again, we believe the development right was established in 2007, and so that's a combination of the 1093 and the 500 square feet of bonus. E, that the proposed deed restriction permanently restricts the maximum development of the property. And so this is something we review prior to the closing. And so should this be approved, the applicant who receives these has a right to set a closing date to do that. And that's when we review the deed restriction. F, at real estate closing, this again would be in the future, the city shall execute and deliver the applicable number of TDR certificates. And then the property owner will execute and deliver the deed restriction, which again lessens the available development of that property. So that's required at closing. G, it's the responsibility of the sending site and the property owner to provide a zoning analysis or a building plan to satisfy that they have the right. Again, this is a vacant lot. I would say we had a zoning analysis that established the development right. H, again, this is a reporting that the sale and assignment and conveyance and transfer of these certificates shall be recorded in the public records and reported to the city. So that's a reporting requirement. I is that the certificates may be issued at the pace preferred by the property owner. I think we talked a little about this at first reading. And then J, city council if the council finds that the creation of the TDRs is not the best preservation solution, you could deny the application to create the TDRs. And then you're to get a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission, which they heard this in November, and they did recommend approval of the 6 TDRs. So those are the required findings. Here's a recommended motion. If you have more questions for us or discussion, we've provided this potential motion for you.
Thank you. I think the only outstanding question for council to really consider, in my mind, although there could be others, would be, should it be 6 or 4 TDR? Should the bonus floor area given to that lot be also considered for a TDR? You know, I have to look at the picture of the Sanborn map and think, well, there's not very many other lots out there that have been preserved. Are we trying to, at a cost of $4.2 million or $2,800,000, trying to save something that's already gone? You know, there's that map has been pretty well filled in with houses, and I appreciate your work to save side yards in the past, but it looked pretty crowded already. So I also can see the value of trying to have a vacant lot there and let that house really stand out for what it is. But I do think the question was raised whether bonus square footage intended to allow a residence to be built on that lot and given to the applicant in the past to preserve the one building intact without additions, without new modern additions on it, and you'll build it all over here. And then should that bonus footage be eligible for a TDR? Thoughts? We could open the public hearing first, if you'd like. I kind of sometimes like council's thoughts on the table if possible, but we will open the public hearing if we want to hear that first and see if there's any comments that anyone in the room would like to make or online. I don't think there's any public comment, Christine. I will close the public hearing.
I'm okay with the proposal as is.
6, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
you want to repeat that? For the
yeah,
minutes?
I'm okay with the 6. Thank you to HPC for bringing that forward and for consideration. And I think we talked about it a little bit in the previous meeting, but
You okay with it?
yep.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted us to respond to your question about whether or not the 500 square feet should be considered, because I think it is important to note that the 500 square foot bonus was provided because of the preservation work that was done for the house. And so that's why we do feel it's appropriate to, should council agree to provide the 6 TDRs, just because they did that work that kind of led to that bonus.
Yeah, I can understand that. It was kind of, that explanation was in our memo, and then also questioning that it didn't have to be that way.
Correct.
So, thank you.
I would say, especially with that explanation, I'll second Christine's feelings. I'm okay with 6.
Yeah. Sam?
I'm also okay with 6.
I'm going to be very grudgingly okay with 6. And, it's just, this has become such an expected bonus for any historic preservation anymore. It is expensive to other people. It's expensive to neighborhood character in other places. I live in 750 square feet. That's a whole house to me, And so to say it's got to land where someone else will be exceeding their zoning to land all these, that just feels wrong. It just feels wrong. And looking at 120 in total, 71 have either landing spots or already landed and been built. But that leaves 49 out there. That's a lot of square footage. And I just don't know that we should continue to encourage historic preservation by that means. When people buy a historic property, they know what comes with those constraints, I think we really need to have a serious look at this. To me, it's reminiscent of how the community really started to feel about the very large houses going up in Castle Creek and Maroon Creek, because they're transferring TDRs from the backcountry. And so some people really get to enjoy that backcountry, but not everyone. The wildlife gets to enjoy it, and I'm supportive of TDR programs. I think they've been very innovative, but maybe the amount of a TDR should be lowered. Maybe it should be only 150 square feet and can still be a bonus, or 175. But it starts to be something that we are costing other people in our community, and whether it's excess parking or excess. You take a look at some of the homes over on the East End now, and they are massively oversized. And it's kind of saying, we're going to save this neighborhood by sacrificing that neighborhood. And that's kind of how I'm just not as comfortable with it. I remember back in the day, people were really delighted to get rid of and finally have some TDRs settled and gone, and just gone. And now it's like we're just creating more of them, like triples every other day. You know, it's just every other day there's more and more transferable development right and growth. And it's preserving homes that are perhaps not in this case, but in many cases aren't even lived in. And so to build houses that are oversized that are not lived in. And so that is very detrimental, I think, to our community overall. But I'll support the motion, and it is a policy now. I'm just trying to raise my concerns with the natural endpoint of that policy going forward. Thank you.
I really appreciate those comments, Rachel. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate them too, and I'd be happy to revisit, and I think we are at the council table. And as we discussed in the first meeting, Ben, this was not the first case where we awarded the bonus square feet for the TDR. So it's not precedent setting tonight, and I think that's important to keep in mind too.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see if someone will make a formal motion.
I will move to approve Ordinance 17, Series of 2025, establishment of 6 transferable development right certificates for 500 West Francis Street, Lot 1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
And
you very
I would
much.
just remind council that creating the TDRs doesn't always lead to a sale and landing of the TDRs. So, and I think Ben would probably echo this comment that the 49 that are out there, some of them may have passed by their time. In other words, the owner decided, I'm going to use my rights on my property and I'm not selling the TDR. So we found that certainly in the county, that many of the TDRs have become vestigial, and the market always needs some more added to them to keep it alive. So thank you for doing that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's why we asked for a full report to kind of come up to speed with where we're at. Thank you, Alan, appreciate it. We are now moving into action items. Resolution number 168, series of 2025, request for demolition allotment for 184 McSkimming Road.
Hey, City Council, Haley Hart, Long Range Planner. I've got Sarah Oates, who is the
Hi, Sarah.
presenting on behalf of the applicant. What am I doing? I am going to have Sarah present first, and she has her applicant online who would like to make comment. We have 2 sort of identical packets back to back, but I'm going to separate them just because I want to give space for Sarah and her applicant to be able to speak on behalf of their application.
Okay.
And then we'll move on to Chris Bendens afterwards.
Great. Yeah, the memos were very straightforward.
And I really don't have anything too formal. When we had originally chatted with the city about this application, we were approaching it as a long-time local allotment. So the background in the application provides that, which I still think is fun. And if you guys haven't read through it, I would. You know, it's another one of those music festival families that fell in love with Aspen and eventually were able to be in a financial position to move into the house full-time rather than just in the summer and then renting it out in the winter and to pay for it. So it's a nice story. Just a couple things, and then I'll have Sarah Glorian, so it's owned by Nancy Thomas and Roger Davis. Sarah Glorian, who will speak, is Nancy's daughter. Nancy and Roger have lived in the house since 1993, and then the kids had lived in the house sort of full-time after college prior to that. The house was built in 1965. Nancy bought it in 1976. Nancy and Roger are now down at Sopris Lodge in Carbondale. They're just, unable to be up here full-time because of, mobility and age. Exactly. And so it's
I'm
one of
starting to
those-
understand those things better myself.
Exactly. So it's, it's similar to other applicants I've had that have, life has changed, and so they need to evaluate what they're doing with a pretty substantial asset. So that's about the extent of my presentation, but I will have Sarah Glorian, who's Nancy's daughter, who's on Zoom, sort of speak for the family as well.
Okay, Javier, can you have them speak? Sarah, if you unmute yourself, you are free to speak now. Thank you for attending our meeting.
Hi, thank you for having me. Again, my name's Sarah Glorian, and actually I was born in the old Aspen Valley Hospital in 1969 and during the summer, during the festival. And my mom and Roger, as Sarah Oates had mentioned, my mom's husband, Roger, is 96. My mom is 88. She was here in the early 60s when Main Street was still unpaved. So we have a long history and love of this area. And my mom and her husband have been married for close to 40 years. So we have a blended family. And so the circumstances of that house, my brothers and I basically grew up there. And then Roger's son, who actually just was in Carbondale this week and flew home to Washington State, which is where I also live today. We come and go a lot. Now, one of my brothers is in Denver, so we actually stay in the house now and bring my mom in particular up to the house when we can because it's her home and she's very sad not to be there anymore. But we've been watching the houses developed to the left and the right of us and across the street, sort of ad nauseum, and we know that this may be coming for our house because it's a very old kind of shack-like house. So we've been working with Sarah's firm to just sort of make sure that the permit is in place so that if things need to be decided about the household and the house, we have options open. And I'm the financial power of attorney for both my mom and her husband, Roger Davis.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for your time.
This is an action item, not a public hearing. And so, council, this comes back to us at the table. We have a staff recommendation of approval and a resolution number 68. Is there a motion to get it on the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded. Council discussion.
Same old, same old.
There you go. Well, I think people like Sarah and Chris have probably followed the STR saga, so to speak, and we are making improvements for next year, which will make it easier for folks to move through the system without having to have a denial application and things like that. And we'll continue to make improvements as we can.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's have a roll call vote.
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much, and thank you, Sarah, as well, and we send our best wishes to your family.
Amen.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Up next is Resolution 169, which is for 1160 River Drive, and Chris Benden is the representative for that property.
I just want to know how Chris Benden ended up with the last agenda item of the year. I mean, come on.
Planned it.
He must have been playing that one, that card.
So this is for the last 2026 demolition allotment. Chris, is there anything that you would like to say on behalf of your applicant?
Again, like Sarah, I don't really have a formal presentation in front of you. Here on behalf of Maria Udina, 1160 River Drive. It's a street that's about 100 feet long that I had to look up. It's off of Red Butte Drive down by the river, far north end of Cemetery Lane neighborhood. It's a 1971 home. You can probably picture it. It's sort of a dump. It needs to be redeveloped. They are planning a redevelopment, going through the full stream margin review. I don't have a story like Sarah. They are the initial trajectory of their presence here in Aspen. But I'm sure in time they will have that story. Certainly appreciate the staff recommendation. We've comfortable with the resolution and ready to move forward.
Okay. Thank you. Staff, excuse me, any questions for staff from the council or questions at all? Is there a motion?
So moved.
To approve Resolution 169, series of 2025.
Seconded.
And it is seconded by Sam. Okay, Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Happy
the
holidays.
fastest appearance you've ever had either.
I know, I love it.
We do have an executive session. I'll let my city attorney do the full citations. But I would note for the public that we do not make decisions in executive session. We will be convening in a different room so that grassroots will be able to close the broadcast and go home. And we will end our meeting from the alternate location. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Staff is requesting an executive session this evening pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes, Section 24-6-402, subsection 4, subsection B, conferences with an attorney for the local public body for purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, and subsection 4E, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. The specific items of discussion involves potential litigation regarding property located at 4055 Rio Grande Place, Aspen, Colorado. This meeting will be recorded, and the recording of the executive session will be maintained by the clerk for not less than 90 days. The executive session will be convened in electric pass, and my understanding is council will not reconvene in council chambers to adjourn, but rather adjourn from electric pass.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the attorney's citations?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Nicole, will you call the roll again?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yep.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. We will go to executive session. Thank you, Aspen Daily News, for being here in person. Thank you, Grassroots, for your wonderful service. We appreciate it. And happy holidays to all.